All right, the meeting is called to order at 6:04. And we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance or silent meditation as people choose. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and
justice for all. All right, our first order of business, we have a piece of new business we're going to do up front. And just for the benefit of any of the public who may be viewing, a little background between last month's meeting and now, we had the resignation of Joe Otter, one of our board members, who had to leave due to family commitments. And under our bylaws, when a vacancy occurs, the nominating committee is responsible for finding and selecting a replacement candidate trustee and presenting that to the board. And the nominating committee did meet and has asked Marcia, our former board member who just left the board a year ago, to come back and fill out the remainder of this year's term. So the first order of new business on the table here is the nomination of Marcia to fill the vacancy. And I will make the motion to approve Marcia as to appoint Marcia as the trustee to fill the remainder of Joe's year. And Barb seconds that. So we have a motion seconded on the table. Is there any discussion?
Hooray. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Right, well then,
Gotta vote.
let's take our vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes unanimously. And congratulations, Marcia, and welcome back. And thank you also.
I'll do my very best.
A very quick piece of related business. We have a staffed governance committee after Joe's departure, and Marcia has agreed to fill in that spot as well. So I'd like to make a motion to appoint Marcia as the third member of the governance committee.
Second.
Barb seconds again. And any discussion of that?
Was that the only position that we needed to fill?
That's the only one we have to do. And I was thinking, so right now, every committee with that, every committee will have 3 members right now. If there's a committee that feels like it could use a little more help, then maybe Marcia could, also join one of those as a 4th member on those committees. But that's the one we could really use another person on. So, any further discussion? All right, then all in favor? All right. that
Who made
passes.
the motion and who did the second?
I made the motion and Barb seconded.
Thank you.
So that motion passes. This budget amendment says tentative here. I think we'll probably come back to that. That doesn't need to be upfront. We'll come back to that after George.
Do I need to take an oath of office?
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
It's in your packet.
It's in there?
Manila folder.
Is there, I don't have a copy of that, do I?
Jeff, I want to give it to you. Oh,
Not a whisper.
is it underneath?
Here.
It's on the policy.
All right, why don't I, or do we get, is there any others?
Oh, no, it's in Mike's packet.
Oh, is it my pack?
No ringers.
Oh, it's in there. Somewhere. All right,
We put it in the red because it was like super important,
I see.
but it
All right, so
worked against us.
I will read this and you can repeat after me. I do solemnly affirm
I do solemnly affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of library trustee
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of library trustee
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Thank you, and you will.
Thank you all
sign-
very much.
No, I need time.
Just not good, thank you.
Yep, and then I got,
You have to sign it too.
Yep,
Yep.
okay, great. Thank you for not letting me just move on, skipping that. All right, So let's move on to the minutes from the previous meetings. In your packet, I'm going to start with the annual meeting minutes. We had our annual organizational meeting last month. I have one correction to propose on this, which is just that in the very first letter A at the top of the first page on this, it says meeting was called to order at 6:04, and then it says the pledge of allegiance and moment of silence were observed. We actually didn't do the pledge at the beginning of the organizational meeting. I checked the video just to confirm with that, but so I just strike that one line. That's our usual thing, but it wasn't in that organizational meeting. So for accuracy. So is there any comment on that correction? Right, by unanimous consent, that correction is accepted. Are there any other corrections to the annual organizational meeting minutes? There being no further corrections, the minutes are adopted as amended. Now, the monthly meeting for July. Are there any corrections that I want to note right now? That we are missing at the very end of those minutes, the details on the motion to adjourn at the end of that meeting. So we're going to have to correct that later. So right now, we're just going to have to leave that blank until we don't have the information here right now to fill that in, but we will get that and have to correct that later. But other than that, does anyone have any corrections to offer to the July monthly minutes? Hearing no correction, those minutes are adopted as presented. And again, we'll try and fix that later to fill in missing information. So moving on from there, public input session number 1. Amy, do we have some?
Yes. Few comment cards. This one says, the second time today in the parking lot, a driver drove through the crosswalk while I was crossing. Please have crosswalks reprinted and signed. So dangerous. This is from Laura Whalen. Then we had comments about summer reading. My niece and nephew participated in the Teen Summer Reading 2026 program. The librarians and staff did an outstanding job. It was so much fun. And then from Carmine and Josephine, we participated in the Teen Summer Reading Program, and the librarians did an awesome job. And this was a comment by one of our librarians. I was so grateful for Michelle at the information desk. She helped me to transfer data on my iPhone tickets for a show. She was and has a gift at the library of kindness and knowledge. Love using the library and all your terrific staff. Carry on, Raina. And one more was on our website. I thought it was wonderful that you not only sold the fishing licenses, but you also had fishing poles and gear that could be signed out too. That was anonymous.
All right, thank you. We have one personnel action, which I will read. This is to accept the resignation of Priya Desai, library page, effective August 10th, 2026. Do I have a motion to accept that? Okay, Corey moves to a second from Alish. Any discussion? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, that is passed unanimously, 613. And George, you are up for the treasurer's report.
All right, I wasn't scheduled until 6:50. And do I still only have about 5 minutes, or can I take until 6:05? So everybody should have the financial statements in their packet. And I think I told you a couple of meetings ago that I was going to try to write more about the variances so that we had documentation that, you know, you had seen them. If anybody ever came in, we could demonstrate the board is very involved and understand what's going on, the financial statements and the variances. On the first page, one thing I did is, you know, as the year progresses, if there's invoices that get received late, they just get rolled into the financial statement. So If we were in April and something came in for January, it would just be incorporated into the year-to-date numbers and we would know about it. But since we changed and are into our first month, I looked and I noticed that there was quite a bit of expenses that got charged to June 2026 and weren't in the original statements that we presented. And I wanted to look at it for two reasons. One, I think it's good for you to know that there were additional expenses that were charged. And two, I guess I like to look at it just to see if there are like systemic issues and processing invoices, or if there's something that we're not doing well. So at the top, it just shows that when we met last month, we were showing a surplus, an actual of 440,752. And since we budget a break-even budget, that's the variance. And the net income went down by $49,920. I listed the major items that caused that variance. And the library materials, I mean, that's not really, it takes a while to process the invoices because they have to go through a process and get checked in and cataloged and different things. So that's really not a significant difference. The last one, the capital reserve, when I looked at it at first, it was a May invoice and I wondered if it didn't get processed. But the fact is there was a credit that they asked for against the invoice, so they didn't process it until the credit came in, which held it up a little bit. The all other net is just a mishmash of different things, which is pretty insignificant. But the biggest things that hit were a $9,800 Titan Roofing invoice from January, which was I think it was the exploratory surgery on the skylight to figure out what was wrong and everything. And the reason it got held up was that I'm told that it went to the director's email and just didn't get noticed, and the company didn't do much to follow up on it, which is somewhat surprising. You would think after a while they would follow up. So, and the Butler Rowland Mays invoice, it was essentially, well, it's not the same thing, but the contract, probably if we hadn't had a leadership transition, would have gone for approval by the board in May. And as it was, it got held up because of the transition. So the invoice got delayed as well. So I think when you look at it, you know, the majority of the difference is just because of a couple of significant items because of the leadership transition. And that wasn't meant to be judgmental. It's just a fact. I mean, I think that, you know, it takes a while to get everything caught up, basically. There's a couple of notes. Originally, we thought that the consulting fees would get charged, the Butler Rowland would get charged the consulting fees. Part of it would be last year, the 23,363, and about 21,138 would be this year. We did send an inquiry to our auditors as to whether or not they believe it should be capitalized, and we're waiting for a response, which it would have a little different accounting treatment, but not significant. So I don't want to spend the rest of my 55 minutes going over all the variances in detail, but I think many of them are simply because we paid some expenses in July that relate to the entire year, so we prepaid them. And I started thinking, I said, I don't remember that happening last year. And I thought about that, and I was embarrassed that I couldn't remember. And then I realized that we hadn't converted to QuickBooks, so I never really saw the detail of anything before probably August or whenever we did that. So that is much easier now to find things. But just quickly, salaries and wages were favorable. by 17,000. That is 3 pay periods. So that's really more on the line of maybe 11,000 favorable per month. And we have some vacancies because of the leadership transition. We just made a note that last year our retirement contribution was 327,000, which is a little unfavorable. We got nervous and bumped the budget up by quite a bit, and this year our contribution is virtually the same. So we should have a 49,000 favorable variance. It's not recorded yet because we don't pay it until November, but that should be coming up. And I think the biggest other variance is library materials. There were about $11,000 in annual items that hit, and we discussed that it seemed like Ingram, there are certain delays in Ingram that pushed the receipt of the books back. So normally at the end of the year, we always say, oh, the end of the year, the library materials are going to go up. But it seems like this year that bulge just kind of pushed into this year a little bit more and delayed. Natalie's nodding, so, and, if I say things that are totally incorrect, you should correct me. Minor things, you should probably let go.
Yeah. I know how to pick my battles.
And I think that's it. I mean, I don't know if anyone has any questions on the income statement. Obviously, the year-to-date numbers are the same as July. I checked that about 3 or 4 times. It's always embarrassing when they're not in July. The balance sheet, we have a very, I think, strong balance sheet. Someone asked, and I had to look it up because it's not separately listed. But when you look at our budget, we're going to need between June and when we get our tax levy in, which is usually the end of October, we're going to need $1,344,000. And within the short-term investments of 4.8 million, we have about $3.3 million in the IntraFi account, which is you can draw it out at any time without penalties. It's not like the CDs that we invest with LPL. So we are very well covered for that. Any questions on any of that?
I do have one question. This is going back to the June changes to
Yeah.
to the previous year's final, figures.
Yep.
And my question was, and we'd had some discussion last year about trying to be more diligent and on top of potential budget line overruns and doing mid-year budget amendments to prevent us from overrunning some of those lines. And I wondered whether this caused us our end of year numbers to have run over any of those lines, and if so, whether just as a matter of best practices, we should retroactively as a board approve those changes to the budget lines so that it's clear that we've been made aware that things overran those lines and have, being made aware, have approved that happened, even though, we want to do it prospectively ahead of time, but it's too late for that now.
So I looked before and I don't think there were any. I know that library materials would not have pushed it over, and I believe that the building maintenance repair would have pushed it over. The thing that would need to be amended unless we capitalize it is the 23,363, because there was, I believe, no budget for other consulting or,
Okay.
yeah.
And we're waiting to find out if that,
I mean, that's what I would
Capitalize,
suggest,
so-
and do it.
so we should
All
just,
at
we should
once.
just hold off until. we
But
get
yeah,
it.
and I do think that we should I think we should retroactively amend it, even though one could argue that it doesn't make much difference, but it does show that the board looked at it and transferred the funds. And I believe that is the technically appropriate thing to do.
So we'll wait until we decide how we're accounting for the.
Yeah, and we should know shortly. I know the auditor's wrapped up in, I think, school district audits are.
Well, that was my question.
So, in your packet is the investment report. And there should be the check register. Which I just barely glanced at today. Any questions on that, or things that you would like to know more about? As check 35359 is the Butler Roland Mays consulting fees for now. Actually, 2 invoices. There was that one dated something like June 12th, and then the other one was dated either in July or August. I can't remember.
All right, well, we'll need a motion to approve the check register. Bethany, and a second.
Sure.
From Cory. All right, is there any questions or discussion on the check register? I'll make a comment. I don't know if it makes sense to mention it here or later in the committee reports, but if you read the meeting minutes from the finance committee meeting that was the other day, there's been quite a bit of discussion about our process about approving the checks, the auditing process that the board is using to approve the checks, and our process has kind of changed, maybe possibly kind of inadvertently over the past few years from the way we used to do things, and we're in the process of trying to figure out how to, kind of do it correctly so that we're complying with our obligations, both under the guidance from the state comptroller's office and the resolution that we adopt at the end of the year to make sure that we're actually approving checks appropriately before they go out. So, but we can discuss that more if you have questions about that. But as for this month's check register, unless there's any further discussion, we take a vote. All in favor of approving that? Aye. All right, passes unanimously, 627. All right. That brings us to the director and department heads reports. Natalie.
So most of July, I spent working on our construction grant application for the Skylight project. It is about 14 pages of documents. One of them, the board will be approving tonight, and I will be uploading that. And then there's one more document, and then we're done. So I'm very excited for that. I do believe Upper Hudson is, if they haven't met already, they'll be meeting soon to kind of divvy up, the awards. We should hear in early September what we will be getting. I heard rumblings anywhere between 50 and 56% coverage. So that's pretty good for us. Also facility stuff. I talked to the facilities committee about this a little bit. The issues with Mercy Care are finally kind of presenting its ugly head. We're getting water runoff on the road, and it's kind of creating like a culvert or sinkhole on our property. So I've talked to multiple departments. I've talked to our town department. I've talked to the Albany County departments. And right now our legal is trying to contact the town attorney to figure out who owns the road. And if there's damage and needs to be repaired, the assumption is that there's a damaged pipe in the middle of Mercy Care Lane. So we're trying to figure out who's responsible for that. How do we get the repair? So I'm actually meeting with Erin tomorrow virtually to discuss a couple of outstanding things. So I'll see if she has anything else on that. We're gonna talk about it later and I think in either executive session, but still like union negotiation stuff and labor management, things that have been discussed that I've been working on. The other big thing is it's that time of year, we're working on health insurance plans. We do have a couple of leads. I know it was in the interest of the board last year for us to kind of pursue, health insurance is increasing. We're looking at double numbers and percentage increases. So I know it was, the board asked for us to look into either consortias or something like a PEO. So we have talked to Marshall and Sterling. There is interest in a PEO for us. The problem is if we go with a PEO with Marshall and Sterling, it means we would have to change our payroll company. We are looking into the chamber. I'm meeting with them next week to see if we can be part of their consortia. It's looking pretty good, but I'll have final numbers and everything, next week. And then, I'll bring that to the board if we want to enter into a contract with them. So that was most of my work in July. If you go to our department heads, we're wrapping up summer reading program. This is actually the last week. If you want, you can, after the meeting, head over to the youth services department. They set up their annual Groupus book barn. That's for all the kids who completed summer reading. They get to get their free books. So it's like, we'll set up like a little scholastic bookstore. So it's really nice. There was a lot of great programs. I mean, heavy on the programs. My favorite one, this wasn't a summer reading thing, but it was actually National Hot Dog Day. So we gave out, was it 130 hot dogs?
Yes.
Sean was grilling all day. He was in his element. It was the first time we were able to, celebrate this day since before COVID. And that kind of led right into our annual staff barbecue. So July was just a lot of fun with, all the programs and a lot of staff activities. So, but yeah, I strongly encourage to look at all of them, especially the hot dog pictures. They're great. But yeah, fun month, not a lot of issues.
Ellie, you checked the facilities committee minutes from like September-ish of last year.
First
There were a couple of conversations about
Yeah,
who owns.
I was gonna ask after the meeting, I was gonna circle up. Yeah.
Okay, and we met with Barbara, right?
Yep.
Superintendent about all of this.
Okay.
Yeah. Should touch base.
It's never resolved, though, I don't think.
All right, then moving on, committee reports. First on the list is finance. Bill is the chair. He's not here. I can kind of briefly discuss that. There are minutes in your board packet. The issue that kind of took up the bulk of the committee's discussion was what I touched on earlier, is the process for the auditing process for approving checks for our library. And the issue is there's been a shift that's taken place somewhere over the last few years where certain checks were being issued that don't necessarily fall within category where this is permissible before the board had taken its vote to approve the check register. And so we're going back to kind of the former practice where after the approval of the check register, then we're signing the majority of the checks to get them out rather than before, which is what should have been happening. But there is also just further kind of discussion, and we're kind of doing a little more investigation into to what extent are we giving the appropriate level of due diligence to the review of the checks, and to what extent are we permitted under the law to some degree to delegate that responsibility of reviewing the checks. And so we still have some more research to do on that and kind of really nail that down. But I can answer questions if anybody has any questions on that, but that's the main issue that was being hashed out at the finance meeting.
Is
Anyway,
there a statutory guidance?
there is a statutory provision that expressly says that the Board of Trustees has responsibility for auditing checks before they go out, with certain exceptions. And then there's guidance from the comptroller that's not specifically for libraries, but for all, various, local government entities about what you should be doing for that process. And there is also guidance for most other types of government entities that approves and gives them the authority to delegate that task. But there appears to be, based on what we've seen in the guidance, it appears to say that libraries can't delegate like other things can. So the school board hires an outside auditor that reviews and approves checks before they go out, and then the school board doesn't have to sit there and review all the checks themselves. It doesn't, our understanding is we can't do that, and we need to actually, as a board, have that responsibility, but there's some other guidance that's come out in enforcement actions from the comptroller that suggests we can kind of internally delegate it within the board to some degree, not completely, but to some degree. So we're still trying to figure out the contours of that and what we can do and what we ought to be doing.
But the delegation would be within the board, not within.
So
staff.
what they've recommended is that a board appoint members to take the primary role of reviewing that stuff and then come to the full board with, recommending that the board approve it. So instead of just getting the check register, you'd have some board member saying, I went through and reviewed all these and I recommend that we approve the check register, so that it'd be, the full board would still have to approve the check register before they go out, but
Right.
some board member would have a more active role in reviewing them.
So it
It's a
wouldn't be
big burden.
delay.
It's a
Wouldn't
big-
be a delay, but.
Well, it's a big time burden on
Yep.
whatever board member is going to take up that role. But
Right.
the question is, the way we're doing it now, are we giving appropriate level of attention to the checks? Is the review that's happening right now sufficient, or are we really not living up to our,
Doesn't sound like it.
but if we're going to expect some board member to put in the amount of time it would take to really diligently look through every single check and all the backup,
Sure.
documents and everything like that, that's a huge time undertaking. So we're trying to figure out what our options are, what we can realistically do, what we're allowed to do under the law, all of those pieces, and figure out if there's a better way to do this. But we don't have the answers to all those questions.
So,
I think after the meeting, I looked at the library trustees handbook and it said, oh, well, the OSC recommends that it be delegated to one or two trustees and blah, blah, blah. And then I looked at some OSC reports from, I forgot what library it was. And it said the library delegates this to two trustees. That's not allowed, blah, blah, blah. And that's when I decided
Well,
that I was
I think
never gonna look
The
again.
difference might be if they're delegating to the trustees to actually make the decision to send the checks out.
Yeah,
That would be
I think,
impermissible, but if they're delegating to trustees to advise the board and the board makes that decision, I think the board as a whole has to make that final call.
yeah, it could be that, but it seemed,
But
no,
yeah,
I don't know, but even the contract said it's reviewed by the entire board and, I don't know. It's
anyway, we're
not.
we're working on this, and I don't think we have a final solution to the, the right way we should, the best practices or what we're, allowed to do, but we're trying to diligently make sure we're doing this right. We're getting there. So, anything further on that? Before we move on?
The downstream effects might affect the vendors as far as that 30, 60 or 45, whatever we have to redo their contracts.
Yeah, that's one concern. For one specific thing is that there's an expectation of a lot of the outside people who do programs for the library, that they usually expect payment
Right.
on the date of the program. And most of those are known well in advance. So we're going to try and have them in the previous month's check register so that we can approve prior to the program, and then the checks can be ready and still given the day of. It would only be programs that are kind of a last minute addition to the calendar that we wouldn't be able to do that for. So to the extent things are known further in advance, we can always approve it early and then we don't have that issue. But for other expenses that come up where we have vendors who we, between meetings, are performing some service, we're gonna have to work that out because, for most things, we might have to, hold their payment and not set it until after the next board meeting, so. But, All right, moving on, personnel committee has not met yet. So I don't think we have anything further on that. Facilities, Tony?
Yeah, we did meet last week. Natalie already mentioned the skylight, so that's progressing. The cost did drop, she mentioned, that Natalie mentioned, so we went from 460-ish to 415, still hoping to get 50 to 55% of that funded through grants. The Normanskill room should be opened up to patrons hopefully by September, you think?
Westbrook.
Westbrook, sorry.
Mhm.
Westbrook room should be opened up to patrons by September. Crafts House door is still there, following up with the Masonic Temple at some point in the future. Still working on the cafe space and what to do with that. And I think that was most of it. Natalie already mentioned the culvert and Mercy Care is an ongoing thorn in everyone's side. So not too much else.
Right? Governance, Bethany?
Sure, we met on the fourth. Our biggest thing was that in losing Joe, we lost a member, which now Marcia will fill in. Thank you. So for now, I agreed to serve as committee chair. I would like that not to be permanent because I'm also on the director search committee and secretary for the board. But right now, that's what I am. And mostly we looked at the bylaws and we finished up our revisions to those. And we voted to put them in front of the board at this meeting. And that's about it.
And just as a reminder, bylaws amendments have to be presented to the board one meeting before they're voted on. So, you know, they're in the packet. There's the amended bylaws that have been proposed here. If anybody has questions about those, I'm happy to discuss and talk. There's a variety of things. Some of these we're just kind of cleaning up some ambiguities. Some of them we're trying to make it conform with our actual practice. Some of them were, we added some language that came out of the kind of model bylaws that are in the library trustees handbook. So there's kind of a variety of different things in there, but if people have questions about any piece of it, I'm happy to address any of those, or, you know, either individually or in as part of, you know, this month or next month's, you know, meeting. So that's bylaws. All right. The Friends, Bill is going to be serving as our liaison to the Friends. I just learned that they have set a regular monthly meeting time. They're going to be meeting on the fourth Monday of each month at 5:30. So that's so they're, I think next week is their first meeting on this new.
September.
Oh,
September.
September, my mistake. September, they're going to start.
Next week is the Upper Hudson Friends meetup.
Okay, right, okay. So yeah, so starting in September, that'll be their regular meeting date, so. At least did the foundation meet?
It did. I was unable to make the meeting early. Did you?
I sent you yeah, they basically approved a bunch of things that our PPS department wanted to get going. The biggest thing was we're doing a very large author talk next spring. It's a one town, one book program. So she's actually Samantha Coons, the president. She's actually meeting with Christina Ronald, our adult services department head, tomorrow to kind of finalize the funding for that. One of the other things they always fund is the Grufus's Book Barn. And I think there was one other initiative they wanted to do, something for youth services, but I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, I'm locked out of my email. That's what
Oh, it's okay.
It's okay. I'm waiting on the confirming it's really me thing, which currently is 48 hours.
UHLS, they met, but we don't currently have a representative there. That'll come up again in new business, so we'll be coming back to that in just a few minutes. School board, this was our kind of trial thing that Joe was going to, you know, serve as kind of a liaison to the school board. It was something we were going to try out, but now that Joe has left the board, we don't have anybody in that role. I don't know that anybody, I'm not expecting to have someone jump to volunteer for that. If there is someone who would be interested in doing that, we could talk about switching off some other committee responsibility in exchange for that, but unless we have a volunteer, we might let that slide for now.
I can maybe, but depending on when the meeting falls, I may or may not be able to, just depending on kid arrangements, but
Okay,
if you don't mind it being sporadic, I could
all right, well, yeah,
possibly do that.
I mean, I'm fine with it. I mean, we can always, you know, you can
Go for it.
take on that, take.
I mean, if you're gonna potentially scratch it off anyway, I'll just pay attention to when the meetings are, because I get them through Parent Square.
All right,
If I
yeah,
could go,
and
no.
if you can, if you can make it, then you make it, and you can let us know if there's anything that we ought to know about.
I think they're usually online too.
They are.
They're on the
Oh.
down.
Yeah.
It's just in case
they
I
store
want to,
online.
I guess if we're bringing anything
If
from the
we,
library.
yeah, if we want to kind of make a public comment about what's going on at the library or something like that, but
I
otherwise,
can always email them in advance if I do the virtual.
Yeah.
thing. Okay, cool.
all right. Matt, any news from the town?
Yes, three things that are interesting that are going on around here. The contracts for constructions of sidewalks on Carmen Road and Eastville Estate were approved. I'm not really clear when the construction begins, but the utility services have been out to mark water and gas lines. So I think that's an interesting update. A little bit closer to home, there is a conversation regarding the affordable housing development going up on Mercy Care Lane. It's 72 units. Rockabill, the developer, is working on getting its PUD application in front of the planning board. And after the planning board reviews, the town board will need to vote on approving the rezoning. So that operation is moving. And the last thing I have on here is that the town is considering a moratorium on data center development. There's a public hearing on 9/15 at 7 p.m.
Corey, the director search.
The committee has not met, but as you've all seen, that posting went up. It closes on August 31st, and so the committee will be meeting after that to review applications.
And I believe we've gotten like about 7 applicants so far. something like
Yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head, and I feel maybe a little uncomfortable discussing too much in public session.
that. I'm not gonna
But yeah,
say any specifics, but yeah, I think it's in that ballpark so
Yeah.
far. And we'll see, there's still time left, so maybe people, aware of the deadline and getting things in the last week or whatever, so we'll see. Nominations committee, that was the only, they did meet. I think there's minutes in the packet for that, but that was Marcia's appointment or nomination for the trustee seat, so you've already heard about that. So that brings us to old business. The skylight, we have resolution, which I have in front of me here. I think, is this in everyone's packet?
No, I think that one is that in everyone's?
Yeah, I know
Okay,
that's in
okay,
everything.
sorry. I know.
Alright. And
It was loose.
It was.
Oh, yeah.
Natalie, can you just explain
Yes.
what this is, the purpose of this, what this is? for?
Yep.
Not in the.
So this is a resolution that BRM needs to give to the Office of, I forgot what the F stands for, but planning, to basically get the permit to do the work on the skylight. So it's basically saying that the board is authorizing and that we do have the funds to take care of the skylight. And then they'll take that, give it to the OFP, and then they're gonna issue them the permit.
I will read this in just a moment, but I am going to offer one amendment to it, which is in the final paragraph. It refers to funds currently assigned for capital improvements, but we don't actually have, this is coming from our reserve funds, which are not, or which are unassigned. They're not, there's no, dedicated funds specifically for capital improvements. So I would change that line, get rid of currently assigned for capital improvements and change that to funds from the fund balance. I think is that the proper terminology?
I'll tell you in a minute.
What's the fund that is, what balance, what fund are you referring to?
Just the unassigned reserves, just our
Oh,
library
so,
reserves.
then I'm not understanding what you want to change.
So where it says currently assigned for capital improvements, I want to change that to just saying funds from the fund balance.
Funds from.
So probably unrestricted net assets would be the word, or you could,
We could say from the unrestricted
Yeah.
reserves.
Yeah.
You say, want to say, would that make sense or? Make it clear and as accurate as you can. I thought the general term for like our surplus funds with the fund balance. Like that, I don't know if that's.
Financial statements, call it unrestricted net position. So the board is formally allocating about 400, some amount for this.
Yes, which is, the quote, what is, it's, the total amount is going to be something, what is it, $415,000? But we're hoping that a substantial portion of that, 50+% will be, we will get grants that'll reimburse at least that much, but we have to attest that we have the money available.
Okay, so the fund you're referring to is the improvement design funds that we referenced at the top. Use of
Well,
capital improvement
yes.
design funds.
Right, which I think is, again, I don't think that's, I think it's just use of our reserves, use of our unrestricted
So that needs
reserves.
to be changed.
Yeah, so. Yeah,
I'm confused.
so,
Yeah. That's correct. We don't have capital improvement.
Right, the
funds.
capital
No such
improvement is
thing.
We
the
don't have
general
anything,
language that
yes.
most libraries use, it's just that we don't.
Maybe
we don't
someday
use
we'll-
that.
How the
Right,
lawyer,
right.
Yes.
Yes, someday. we will.
someday we will.
way to make it up.
So,
The top line over the, what?
so what, do we want to just call it unrestricted reserves? Does that sound? Sure. Is that?
That's what they are.
George said yes, yeah.
Okay.
But keep in mind, I'm pretty agreeable.
George said yes.
Okay,
So it's the unrestricted reserve. fund.
yes, unrestricted
Reserve fund.
reserve, I would just say reserves, but I don't know, we can do it either way.
Well, then. Sorry, it's my new meeting, I know, but
No, it's good. So make it consistent. All right. Well, here, I've got, unless somebody has a strong opinion, otherwise I'm just calling it unrestricted reserves. Does that work for you? Okay,
Sure.
so let me read it with that change. I'll read the full resolution that I'm going to move that we adopt. Authorization for use of unrestricted reserves, Skylight Renewal Project. Whereas the Gilderland Public Library Board of Trustees has reviewed the plans and operational requirements for the implementation of the Skylight Renewal Project. And whereas the board has evaluated the financial resources necessary to facilitate and successfully execute the aforementioned project, as detailed in the communication dated July 22, 2026. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Gilderland Public Library Board of Trustees hereby formally authorizes the allocation and expenditure of funds from the unrestricted reserves to facilitate the implementation of the Skylight Renewal Project. So I move that we adopt the resolution that I just read. Barb seconds. Any further discussion on this resolution? No? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, passes unanimously at 6:53. And we have one other thing. There is a, in your packet, you'll see a application. It's labeled assurances at the top of the page. It's a form with checkboxes on it. So, the end of this, if you look on the bottom of the second half of the page, there's a section underneath authentication of application. And it reads, this application completed in the preceding pages and accompanying documents for a public library construction aid award to be administered in accordance with the requirements of education law, section 273A, the commissioner's regulations, section 90.12, was read and duly adopted by the Board of Trustees of the Gilderland Public Library at a legal meeting on August 20, 2026. So it's asking us, the board has to attest that we've read this and we have to vote to approve this application here. So I'd like everyone to take a minute and read this and see the boxes we've checked on here. And when everyone's had a few minutes to do that, I'm going to move that we vote to adopt this application.
Assuming the OFP has reviewed and approved this.
So this is the actual grant application form. So that one, that's for the OFP. This one is for DLD, Division of Library Development. And they will review it once I submit the whole application. So this is one of the like 14 pieces of paper that I had to fill out.
Yeah, it was just the wording made it sound like we're saying that they have already.
I know.
It's the state.
Are you sure I'll get trouble?
I make the motion to move the grant application.
Okay. Good. People are just about done reading. I just want to give everybody a chance to actually.
So construction project now,
This is, what's that? Oh, yeah.
just checking.
Thank you.
Right. So,
I'm calling with my backup.
all right, so everybody able to look this over again. This is just to allow us to apply for the grant to hopefully cover some of the cost of the construction project that we already.
I will second.
Okay, so the motion. Okay,
There's that.
I think Barb.
so Barb, you're moving that we adopt this application, okay? And then Corey, we have a second from Corey. All right, any discussion? No. All right, all in favor? Aye. All right, unanimous 6:57. Thank you. So that is it for the resolutions there. We also, we have the resolution for the check signers. Is that, oh, is that this? All right,
I
so
think everybody has a copy of it.
we had already taken votes last month to add new check signers for the new officers on the board to give them authority to sign checks. But the bank requires it in a particular form, and they wanted a single resolution that listed everybody's names rather than just adding individuals to it. They want to say, here are all the people authorized in one document, so they can kind of get rid of the old authorizations, replace in a new authorization all at once. So I have a resolution, and again, this is just repeating people that have already been authorized by this board as signers, but we're going to put it in a form that has everybody in one piece of paper.
We don't have it.
We don't have it.
Yeah.
We'll take it.
All
over.
right,
It's fine.
I'll read it out loud and then everybody can get any questions here. Whereas the Board of Trustees of the Gilliland Public Library recognizes the need for authorizing signatures on library checks, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Gilliland Public Library hereby authorizes the following individuals to sign checks on behalf of the library. 1, Michael Horelchuk, President. 2, Matthew Gruen, Vice President. 3, Bethany Stoyer, Secretary. 4, Natalie Herto, Acting Director. The undersigned hereby certifies that the foregoing resolution was submitted to and approved and adopted by the Board of Trustees at a meeting held on August 20, 2026, and that said resolution is now in full force and effect without modification or recession as permitted under the bylaws of the library. In witness thereof, the undersigned has hereunto set their hand effective this 20th day of August, 2026, and I will be signing this once it's adopted. That is the resolution. Do we have any motion to adopt this resolution? Elish? Give it a second. Matt? Any discussion of this resolution? No. All in favor? All right, it's unanimous at 6:59, George.
All right, before we move out of old business, can I just say, Marcia, how long have you been gone for?
This.
One year.
A year.
Just 1 year.
Yeah.
So, in your absence, or maybe as we're doing, we did finish our audited financial statements and have to present to the board. And Mike and I talked about this maybe last month or something. We realized that the finance committee reviewed them quite a while ago. And then from what my recollection was, the fiscal officer left and then the second fiscal officer left and a bunch of things happened. And we just kind of lost sight of that, but we were supposed to have the finance committee look at it. They looked at it before and everything was fine, but we have a new member and I think that the board accepts the financial statements upon the recommendation of the finance committee. So I think we just want to formally do that at the finance committee that we'll do next time. We didn't get to it last time because the treasurer went off on some tangent about all kinds of things. So I am going to be sending them out sort of contingent upon that to all the board members within the next few days for your review, and it'll be the statements and just kind of a summary. They are from 6:30, 20, so they are kind of old. We can spend as much time as people want, but it's almost like reviewing the history of building the Erie Canal or something that's so old. Hopefully by December, and December is a very important date, and there's a reason I'm targeting December, we'll have 3 more years updated. The work's been sent to a new set of auditors and that'll get us close to being caught up, so.
So, yeah, just following on that, just the backstory, if anybody doesn't know, the first year audit, the one that's completed, that we have to, we're finished reviewing and voting on it. That got held up because of some questions about the proper accounting related to the construction project and some, unspent funds from the construction project. And that held it up for a long time while we got various opinions from various sources and things like that. So everything was held up on that. That's now done. And we are having the 3 following years after that done all together as a group to kind of get us close to caught up. And then it'll just be last year's.
Yeah.
So the most recent year that just closed out.
2026, which.
So hopefully by the end of this year, we'll be completely caught up and we'll be just on track to be doing each year's audit immediately after the conclusion of the year that we're auditing. Hopefully, that's the goal.
Can we go back for a second?
Yes.
Just want to make sure I understand something. We were discussing the check writing requirements under the statutes.
Yes.
And we were questioning whether or not the library has the ability to delegate.
Yes.
Got it. And the approval has to come from a trustee.
The approval has to come from the board.
Yeah, but a trustee can look over the checks, make a recommendation to the board.
Yeah, I believe so. That's what the handbook recommends, is that a trustee or two review them and present them to the board for the report.
The actual signing of the checks
Yes.
can be delegated.
We have, that we just voted that resolution. We have the officers, the current officers of the board are authorized to sign a check on behalf of yeah.
And that doesn't run afoul of any delegation issue.
No, that's fine, but the
Yeah,
issue is,
I'm just talking about now.
so in
Obviously.
theory, there are certain defined categories of checks that can be issued without the board having to approve them first.
Right.
So as long as they have to be signed still by somebody with signing authority,
Right.
but they can go out the door before the board has seen them. There's certain defined categories,
wasn't raising
payroll
those.
and some other things like that. Everything else, in theory, is only supposed to go out the door after the board has voted and approved it. And so that's what we're trying to get back on track and correctly doing that and making sure that we're not sending things out early that are supposed to go out only after the board has approved.
So for the ones that can go out without any board approval,
Yes.
the board has to approve, as we discussed this, the signing of the checks.
Right. Well, so,
Or a trustee thereof with the whole board's.
a trustee has to sign the check. The
So
check.
that's my issue.
Yeah.
Natalie's not a trustee.
No.
The checks require 2 signatures.
Right.
And so right now they're being signed by Natalie and a trustee. But that's the part that's the issue is the board's authorization before the checks go out. Who
Right.
signs them is a different matter. I think
Right,
that's just,
that's what I'm trying to,
that's, yeah, I don't think that.
I don't think that's an
totally
issue,
separate.
but I just
Right.
want to make sure everybody understands that.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
And just kind of as a follow-up to that, I mean, I described some of this to our new auditors and I get, there's some people that hide things from their auditors and I believe that you shouldn't lie to your lawyer,
Oh,
your physician,
Good for you.
and your CPA. And and I said that, somewhere when we fell off, it ended up that the director and assistant director were signing them, and she suggested that a trustee
Yeah.
does one signature, but there's no, I mean, you can have anybody you almost want as signatures on the check. It's up to the board, as I think Mike
I
said
just
that.
maybe need to line this out a little bit more.
And I think I just think we need to just define the process a little bit better so that everybody is consistent and,
Yeah.
when things change, it's still. the
Signing is a
same.
ministerial act. It's what happens before that.
Yeah.
I think we need to put the process down so everybody understands that.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
All right, so is there any other old business before we move on to new business? No? All right, new business. So our former director, Tim Wiles, volunteered to serve as the library's representative to the Upper Hudson board. And so so we're not actually, technically, we would not be appointing him. Under the Upper Hudson bylaws, they have a process where they appoint people, but for libraries, the larger libraries, which we are one of the libraries, there's a designated seat that belongs to our service area. It has to be held by someone in our service area, and it says that if there's a vacant seat, then they're to ask us for a recommendation to fill that seat. And I think that's mostly a formality, and they just will see whoever we recommend. So basically, we're indirectly appointing him by recommending him. So Tim has volunteered to serve in that capacity. So I would like to make a motion that we recommend Tim Wiles to Upper Hudson to fill the GPL seat on the Upper Hudson board. That's my motion.
You're making the motion?
I'm making that motion.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, Bethany with the second. Do we have any comments or discussion on that matter?
What about Time Wells?
Fixed it on the
He might
minutes.
have been-
Don't
that's-
worry.
He might have been interested as well, but. So Tim Wells, that one, no, okay.
It
We're
will,
good.
it will be a perfect fit. Having just cycled off that.
I just want to say, I saw it and I didn't say anything.
I wish you had, so I could have corrected it.
Sorry. All right, any further discussion? No? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, that passes unanimously at 7:08. And I would like to thank Tim Wiles for volunteering to do that, and I very much appreciate him stepping up for that. Tim is also planning to take an active role in the Friends organization. He wants to continue his involvement with the library after his long service as the director. So, any other new business? All right, public input. Do we have any further public input?
Do not.
We do not. Board comments. Did we have any comments from the board before we close out tonight? Oh. Yeah, okay, yeah, let's do board comments. And then I have, there was a request to do a hopefully brief executive session to discuss the current status of labor negotiations.
For today.
Yeah, which I think could be pretty brief, hopefully. Short. But before we do that and go into executive session, do we have any board comments? And do we have anything like to?
Yeah, I wanted to say one thing, notwithstanding the fact that, the bylaws makes it clear that the treasurer is not a board member, but if I can still slide this in under board comments. And Marcia, there's no causation or anything with you being here now. And there's not a good way to explain this, but just based on a lot of things, I've decided that it's time to stop this. And my intent would be to continue through December, which is why I said December would be a very important to have the financial statements done, because I think that I'd like to see that through. And I guess all I would say is, as I look around, we just had a resignation from the board, which was of immediate effect. And, I think that I'm very lucky because, I don't have issues that would require something like that, but I've never had a very good work-life balance. And I think whatever I do kind of full tilt. And after a while, I think it just gets a little overwhelming. And yeah, I think that's all I'm gonna say.
Well,
Thanks for all you've done for us,
Yeah.
George.
Oh, you're welcome.
And be sorry to see you go, but
Unbelievable.
I really appreciate that you're giving us this kind of significant advance notice, because we haven't always had that in the past, and it is very much appreciated. So
It's-
it's a,
It's possible you're getting more notice than I gave Hometown Health when I retired.
Any recommendations?
Retired.
Any recommendations for your replacement? Not that you're replaceable, George, but.
I just can't think of anybody. I mean,
Oh, you want to unload this onto.
I don't know if you went to a CPA firm locally and said, hey, do you have any young CPAs that, they need something to add to their resume to look good, or they're doing community service? I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I think you should, put out a help wanted, long-haired hippie freaks need an auto apply. That was from a song. That's not a prejudice. Okay, I just want to make sure that you're not thinking I'm prejudiced, but, I don't know.
Let me just say this,
You got
your
time.
shoes are gonna be very hard to fill.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
I would say that when you do get an applicant, I know the last time we went through this process, I was on a Viking cruise and sent my stuff to Mike, and we spoke that afternoon from Amsterdam or something, and Mike put my name up that night, and there was a board member, and I won't mention, I think it was Vanessa's name, who objected to the fact that it was kind of being sprung on her. And she voted against me, and I don't want to say if my feelings are hurt, but I've watched that tape many times. And to be honest, she was right. You shouldn't just present somebody and have it voted on that time. And we always got along, and I thought she was a great person. I thought I'd get that into the transcript.
Well, I think we should.
all right.
Thank you, George.
Thank you, George.
Thank you, George.
We have any other?
Assuming that you would be willing to speak to such a person, and
Sure.
that's
I
best bet.
make sure it's a week that I'm not tired though.
Yeah, ideally, if we can, kind of get the word out and try and get some people in before you've gone, you can help us kind of vet candidates and make a smooth transition. That would be wonderful. All right. Any further comments from the board? All right, well, then I am going to move that we enter executive session for the purpose of discussing collective bargaining negotiations pursuant to Article 14 of the Civil Service Law. It's my motion. Second from Barb. Any comments on the motion?
Pause it, right, so we go back into it afterwards.
Yes, please.
Okay, yeah, any comments on the motion? No, all in favor? Aye. All right, unanimous at 7:14. We'll go off the record.
Right, when you pause it, you're not streaming.
It says live it just in case.
Oh, is it still live?
Stop video.
No, we want to be able to go back in the video, so can, yeah.
I would
yeah,
stop
Yeah,
it.
just do that and
And
you
then
do,
you-
you do too. So,
Recording. Do I have to hit recording? No.
All right, we're back on the record. So do we have a motion to leave executive session?
I'll make it.
Marcia, second. Alish, any discussion? No, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, we're out of
We
executive.
end the meeting.
All right, we have a motion to adjourn from Corey. Do we have a second from Alish? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting is adjourned at 7:35.
I'm impressed.
Would you
In front.
personnel?
Usually we're like an hour.
Alicia, can you turn it off?
Yeah, really.
Oh,
Yes.
It's usually one shorter.
Yeah.
I
usually we're-
do,
usually
and
we're-
then, but
Hit the X.